Yes, it's us, and I'm still awake. It's amazing.
Only just. We just had to wake him up, actually. It's taken about 10 minutes just to wake him up out of his bed.
It's only the end of April. We're not even in May yet, and things have really become manic. I think Laurie now is going to cut to a beautiful image, which we shall all look at excitedly. Won't we, Laurie? Look at that. So there's 20 acres in all its splendour. If you saw it on our screen, you've got all those little shafts of light coming down from the sun. But that's 20 acres. It's the lakes are all full up. They're full of fish.
By 20 acres, what Simon means is what we're calling the Wildlife Aid Centre, which is the new 20 acres of land that is going to be our new site, hopefully before too long. Obviously, it is a work in progress at the moment. What we've got down there is the Wetlands Centre, which you can see at the moment, 3 lakes which we've had built. It will contain the new hospital and a whole load of other things, but at the moment it's attracting a lot of wildlife.
So, 1 minute into the live stream, guys, 1 minute in, and Laurie's already correcting me, talking over the top of me, taking over. Laurie's taken over, actually. I think Laurie's about to take over the centre. He's doing all the rescues nowadays. He's actually got me gaffered to my chair, which I think is very cruel.
We only let you out of your box once a week, I think, at this point.
At my age, it's all I can get out of my box. I can't get out very often. No, we've been very busy. There's a lot of work going on with the new site. There's a lot of stuff going on anyway, and the last 2 or 3 really nice rescues I wanted to go on, I was actually stuck in meetings or about to go into a big meeting, so that's why you haven't seen me quite so much. But I will, without any doubt, push Laurie out of the way shortly, because he now calls himself, I said to him this morning, I said to him this morning, oh look, our senior rescuer, and he turned around and said, no, our only rescuer. So Laurie Braley's time on this planet, or time at Wildlife Aid, is very limited, guys, very limited indeed.
It's the amount of pot shots that you take at me, I think I'm allowed to take 1 or 2 back.
I'm allowed to take pot shots because I'm older. That's what I stick to all the time. I want to know who Cavan, C-A-V-A-N Wildlife is. We've seen him coming up in the chat. Make yourself known to us, Cavan Wildlife. We don't know whether you're a wildlife centre or a person who loves wildlife. Who knows?
And hello to everyone. There's a whole load of comments coming in. So a whole load of people from, again, right the way around the world. We've got Kentucky, USA. We've got Ireland. We've got a whole load of places. Norway as well. We love Norway. Canary Islands has just come in. Hello, Gemma. So I'm always amazed by how many different countries these live streams reach. And thank you, as always, for tuning in and listening to let's be honest, complete morons waffle on about wildlife for an hour. So thank you very, very much. There's a whole lot of people coming in.
I think one senior CEO and one moron would be far more apt at this point in time. Right? Considering I haven't signed
I didn't know I was CEO.
I haven't signed your payslip for this month yet, so be very, very careful.
Yes, you have.
I always have. No, so we have
Berlin, Germany, Netherlands, Sweden, South Africa, Finland. My favourite place in the world, Finland. I'm very, very jealous. Whole load of places: Cambridge, Bournemouth, East London, Ontario in Canada, West Sussex, Los Angeles. Ontario! For heaven's sake, Mr. Braley. I've never been to Canada.
You're in the south of the UK now, not up north.
But I'm a northerner.
Oh heavens above! Sorry, I just feel I have to give him the opportunity. We have to give him the chance. You've got to employ these people, and sadly we do, Laurie. So there we are. No, it's been busy. The rescues are really warming up. We've got a few rescues to show you later on and to chat about. And it's worrying me because already we wanted to move some animals around today, and we wanted to put things in different pens, and all our pens are full up. And it's only, as I say, it's not even May, and we've got sort of space issues already. So I hope we don't get to a year for the first time ever where we actually have to limit intake, but it looks horribly like we might do this year, so you'll have to watch our website to see what we can take and what we can't. We could always get rid of Laurie.
As much as we possibly can.
We could put Laurie outside and have some animals in there. They'd be far more productive than Laurie in the first place, really.
Yeah,
so,
and cleaner.
And cleaner, yep. And don't answer back.
More beneficial.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
In fact, I don't think there's a reason not to be honest, so I'll pack later tonight. And the next live stream, I will be replaced by a fox.
Yeah, and Laurie, who didn't want to do tonight, is not letting me get a word in edgeways. He didn't want to do. He was tired. He was fed up. It's been a hard week. I gave him a huge whiskey tonight, a huge whiskey to cheer him up. He's hardly drunk any of it at all. So it's your fault, Braley, for not necking at least half of that
And
glass.
this is like
before you
single
start.
malt Scotch as well. It's one of those that would
It's
probably
expensive.
constitute
Right,
alcohol poisoning.
I'm giving you something expensive. You really, I don't know whether you deserve. I think I should not. Hang on, let me just knock it off Laurie's
We're getting
paper.
off topics here.
We always get off topics. What do you expect with me? I never stick to any topics. What do you want to talk about, Laurie? Go on. You can start.
Well, let's start with one of the recent rescues. So as Simon was saying, we've actually had a whole load of rescues recently. This week certainly, and weeks previously, has been incredibly busy. And incredibly busy with some actually really quite impressive, difficult, whichever way you want to call it, rescues that we've had to go to. Some of the ones that we've been out to over the past week have been some of the most difficult we've dealt with in a long time. So the first one really to cut to, I suppose, and I know that there's someone in the chat who knows about this one, so hello to you, Natasha, is this one. So this, you're not entirely sure what you're seeing there, but if you look down there, that is actually a wood pigeon. And
just set the scene, Laurie. Set the scene, the distance, the location.
We are.
Go into it. Off you
So
go.
what that is the bottom of a previously blocked chimney. And it goes right the way down from a hole right the way up in the roof. It's about 6 feet below where the camera is at that point. And down there is a pigeon trapped under what looks like a masonry brick or something like that down there. And unfortunately, the gap to get into that is only this big. So that's actually my hand in there. And you'll see there's a rather large sort of angled bit of metal on there. And it's actually a very small gap. I can't really picture how much it was, but it's probably that sort of size, something like that.
Smaller than
about,
that. I think it's a bit
about
smaller
shoulders.
than that, really. A bit smaller than that.
And we got called to that. So we were actually, originally we were on another rescue when we got the call to this. And we were planning on going straight afterwards. But unfortunately it took quite a while. We'll get onto that rescue in a bit. And at that point we were told that another rescue charity had actually gone to attend it. So we thought, okay, that's fine, we'll move on. The next day, we received a call. Unfortunately, that charity couldn't actually get the bird out at all, and it reverted back to us having already gone through the fire brigade, who said the only way to do it was to knock a hole in the wall, which would have been really quite fun, but unfortunately not what you would ideally like. So we turned up, and I'll be honest, took one look at it and went, how the heck are we going to do this? I certainly.
So I said, Laurie, you're only small, you're only little, you've got narrow little shoulders. We can cut that bit of wood off and I'll shove you down the hole. Which in a nutshell is what we did at the end of the day.
It is pretty much exactly what we did. So what you see there was a bit of wood that was a little bit of an outcrop on there. Nothing underneath it, not structural, no damage or anything like that. And of course we did get permission from the very kind couple who were in there, whose house it was. We were able to cut that off, and that gave us just enough room to squeeze in. And we're talking literally millimetres either side to do it. And we were able to squeeze in, and then it was a case of leaning down over this hole and trying to get the poor bird out. Now, we won't get 100% into exactly what went on, because this was all filmed, and we hope to have that video to you very soon. But the rescue involved a litter picker, a lot of duct tape, and a grasper at that point. So you can try and work out how we did it at that point. So obviously the first thing we had to do was to lift the brick off the pigeon, which is quite difficult when it's 6 feet down a hole. So we were there for probably about 4 hours, would you say?
About that, yeah.
So something like that, trying to go through. But we often say we have stubbornness issues here. We don't walk away from, wrong way, we don't walk away from a rescue, and if there is possibly a way to do it, we will do it. And with that in mind, we're going to another rescue, actually, that is a key example of this, and that was one that actually happened yesterday. So this is something we get.
I'd just like to say, can I just stop you there? This is yet another rescue I didn't go on, yet another one.
You were in a
Laurie
meeting.
didn't tell me. Laurie didn't want me to go. He was too.
That is not
he's
true.
so selfish.
I actually called you and said, would you like to come on it? And you said, sorry, I can't, I've got a meeting.
I know.
So actually I did invite you to it, and you said no, so that one's up to you. So what this is something that we get an awful lot every time of year. So this is a duckling, in this case 7 ducklings, that fell down a drain. So mallards are notoriously bad parents, and they will often walk their youngsters straight over these drains of the road, and they'll just fall down one after the other. So we were originally called to go and help. We turned up, and a very kind passerby had stopped and had already got 6 of the little guys out and back with mum. So that was absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, one more had actually fallen down. If you look at the right-hand photo there, that pipe goes in for about maybe 5 or 6 inches and then drops straight down. And the only place that goes is the main sewer line. And unfortunately, the little guy had fallen down there, and that is a much trickier place to actually get to. And unfortunately, our main rescue, the Volvo that everybody knows, was in for a service, so we only had quite a limited amount of equipment. We could hear the duckling, but we couldn't see it. And we actually had to contact Thames Water, who said that they would come out, but unfortunately they were, I think, up in Wimbledon at the time, so that would have been a 2-hour wait. And we were desperately trying to keep this duckling in a known location so we could try and work out how to do it. And what eventually happened on that one, if I can find the photos on there, is between Jacob and myself and Abby, who was there as well, we were able to lift this. Now this is a main manhole that's in the road. We were able to lift that, and that enabled us to get access into the main drain line that was there. Got that off, looked down, completely dismayed to realise, unfortunately, we couldn't see the bird at all. And then I can't remember if it was Abby or Jacob, one of the two, because both of them have had that idea recently, of playing a mother duck call down there. And literally 5 seconds after we started playing the call, there was a little cheep and a rather bedraggled duckling ran out of the pipe into the middle of the tube there, and we were able to pin it on the side with a net and lift the little guy out to safety. And I'll be honest, it is, for me, one of the biggest reliefs I've ever had on a rescue. We were there for an awful long time trying to get this little guy out, and it was a huge relief to finally get him to freedom. So huge thank you, of course, to all of the members of the public that did help us on that. I don't know if any of you are in the live chat, but it was only possible thanks to your help, your loaning of equipment and all of that lot. So huge thank you. And that bird is currently with our other ducklings. We have loads of those at the moment. It's doing really well and will go back out to the wild once old enough.
Yeah, now I would have rescued that duckling in about 5 seconds. Laurie and team took 2 hours, so I only rest my case, guys. This is how it is, you know. He does his best, poor Laurie. He does his best.
I don't. I just have to cope with you.
I know. I'm a lot to cope with. So no, that was a nice rescue. So Laurie, you know, 2 or 3 rescues recently that Laurie has gone out and left me all alone. But he's done very well. So I do think he's the number 1.5 rescuer. He's never going to get to number 1 while I'm alive. He can get to 1.5.
I'll be nice and said I learned from the best.
Okay, I will pay you a salary check this month now. Hey, Laurie's salary. Cool.
So, in terms of patients, we've had a very busy month as well. We're right in the middle now of what we and other places call the Orphan season, which is the time of year when we get a huge number of young animals that have either been injured or abandoned or lost or found and brought into veterinary practice. There's all sorts of different causes for admission, but we get literally thousands of them. Our admit numbers, we can have 10 times what we would have in the winter months per day. And every single pen at the centre will be full, and we will be moving animals left, right and centre to make sure that we have enough space to keep going. And it's certainly one of the times when there is just no break. You don't get a day off, you don't get hours off or anything like that. Certainly on the night calls we're doing quite easily 4 or 5 a night with a lot of those, and they are taking us anywhere. On the same night I had a call from North London and Bournemouth, which, if you don't know the UK, the difference between those is about 3 hours of driving, possibly even more than that. So it's very busy. And the one thing I suppose that everyone really likes is these little guys. So fox cubs. And these are all different fox cubs. We've had quite a few in. In fact, we tallied the numbers up recently, and we've actually had more than 50 foxes in at the moment, which is an absurd number. They all come in for different reasons. So in terms of the ones you see on the photos in there, the bottom right cub, for example, was found in the engine block of a car. No idea how that managed to get there. The top left was the one from North London that was hypoglycemic and having major issues lying in a garden, almost showing seizure signs. The one top middle is quite obvious. That poor guy was tangled in netting. And the one on the top right, I believe, was attacked by a dog. Luckily, not particularly injured, but was given quite a bit of a shake around. And bottom left was completely collapsed and had to be in our quarantine facility for a while. So we weren't 100% sure what was going on there originally, but we have managed to get on top of that now, and he is doing really, really well. So there's an awful lot of foxes that have come in, and it's not just these ones as well. We are a little behind on the social media side of things when it actually comes to updating everyone on what is in, on what is there, but they are doing really, really well. Our first cubs of the year have already moved into one of our larger outdoor runs up at the top of the centre. You can see that in the top image of that one. And they are looking so much more like miniature foxes. It is amazing how quickly everything goes on this, and they will head back to the wild possibly sort of June, July time, depending on when the dispersal for fox cubs is naturally in the wild at that point. But we've had an awful lot of those. Huge thank you to every single person that has brought them in, has fed them, has tried to get them back, has done a whole load of things. We'll actually get on to a successful reunion in a bit. But we've had an awful lot of those. And then the other things, and this I think is what Simon prefers, is these black and white stripy things. Now, I'll let you talk about these because you know more about the badger cubs, and certainly you and Stanley, your partner, have been heavily involved in raising those. So over to you to discuss the badgers.
Yeah, we've got a few of these things at the moment. I think we've got about 6 at the moment. We've got another 2 coming at the weekend. It's been very busy. Just before I go there, I just want to say, because I've been looking at the stream on the YouTube, rescues a day. We've got some amazing rescuers. Laurie and I go out to the ones which are really difficult and we need equipment for, but we can probably deal with anything up to 10 or 12 rescues a day, commonplace. Laurie and I can go up. Laurie and I can go out probably to 4 or 5 a day. But we only go out to the ones where we've got to have a lot of kit and we've got to have a lot of experience of doing it. But these little guys have come in over the last few months. In fact, we had our very first badger cub in from Oxford Wildlife.
Oxfordshire Wildlife Rescue.
Oh, don't be nice to him. Don't be nice to him, because he's so horrible about his wife, this guy. He made a comment about her and he said,
Hello,
I
Luke,
bet you won't.
if you're there.
Yeah, Luke, maybe, but Ruth, I feel sorry for you having to live with this guy. I don't know how you can possibly put up with it. And then he turned up at gone 9:45 last night with another badger cub. So, you know, I'm going to charge him about 2,000 quid for the care of this one. Believe it or not, every badger cub we take through costs us between 1,000 and 1,500 quid by the time you take everything into account. So it does cost us a lot of money. We wouldn't change it for the world, but they're not cheap to keep. We keep them for a long time. They eat an awful lot of food. Some need an excessive amount of medication. We've still got a badger cub in at the moment who came in very collapsed. We got it stabilised. We put it on a drip. It was great. Kept it away from the others for 2 days. Put it in with the other cubs. It seemed fine. The poos were all fine. But within 24 hours it had gone down again. So out it came. This is still in one of our deer sheds at the moment. It's on a drip. It's looking strong. It's running around all over the place causing havoc. But we're going to leave it in there a bit longer this time to try to give it that bit of extra boost before it goes back to the others. Because obviously it just didn't stand it very well. It was perhaps a bit too weak to compare to the others. They're quite boisterous, our badger cubs. They're actually not out playing at the moment. If I see them come out and playing, I'll get Laurie to flick on the camera quickly. But yeah, it's busy. So badger cubs we get up to, we try to lock off at 20 every year because you've got to find release sites for them and you've got to find friendly landowners.
There's a lot of work in releasing badgers.
And then you've got to build the release site, which is an awful lot of work in itself. We're ably helped by Warwick Reynolds pretty much every year. He's stunning. He's even older than I am, and my God, that's saying something.
The work Warwick does is nothing short of extraordinary, to be honest. To the point of when we release our badgers, the same with our foxes, we do what's called a soft release. So we'll put them in a pen and we'll continue to feed them even when the doors are open for a limited time. Just as a more gentle reintroduction to the wild. It's what an awful lot of wildlife rescue centres do to get these animals back, especially if you've raised them up from youngsters. But with badgers, what we actually do is we build an entire artificial set. And that's dug into the ground, so there are bed boxes, there are toilet boxes, there are a whole load of things in there, there are pipes connecting everything, so it is a heck of a lot of work. And Warwick does an awful lot of that himself, which is remarkable. The ability to actually go out there and dig these things, and we're talking probably 10 square meters of land that needs to be dug up, everything put back in, and then all of the earth put back on top, making sure that we're not damaging any of the boxes. It's a huge amount of work. So huge thank you to Warwick and of course the other guys from the various badger groups that we do work with on that one, because genuinely we could not get them back out to the wild without the dedication of these guys. So thank you very much on that.
I'd just like to say I love Laurie. I often ask Laurie to show someone around the centre, and it takes me 10 minutes to show someone around the centre.
That's because you go pen,
just
pen,
let me
box.
Let me finish. Laurie goes out on a trip around the centre. You're very lucky to see him back within 3 hours.
That's
I don't know what he does, where
minutes.
he goes. No, it's hours. It's always hours.
It's 20 minutes because every time it happens,
you're such
always
a lying
go, you've got to be back here in 10 minutes.
I know, and you never take any notice.
That's why I do 20 minutes.
Laurie's a law to himself and a law to everybody else, and a pain in the bottom to some people. But no, it's all going well. So lots of rescues. We've got 5 or 6, probably 7 brilliant rescuers. They go out all day, every day. In fact, we get Laurie and I get the notifications on our mobiles, and we see just one after the other, after the other, after the other. A lot of it's foxes at the moment, fox cubs, but they are out. They're so dedicated, and then they go back out when the animal's ready to release it again. So a lot of work going on, and as I say, Laurie and I do the main ones, but rescues are this time of year are pretty thick and fast.
And it's actually, that's quite a good tangent. So we will get on to a couple of questions in a minute. So thank you to everyone who has submitted questions. I do have a list of them. We will get to those. If you do have questions that you want to ask either myself or Simon or both, please drop them in the chat either on YouTube or on Facebook. Abby is monitoring those at the moment, and we will try and get through as many as possible. Also want to say a huge thank you to everyone who has donated via the YouTube Super Chat so far. We'll try and read as many of those out again as possible, but as we say this every time, we're not government funded. We can only do what we do thanks to your support. So thank you so much to everyone who has donated, because you are literally the reason that we can do what we do. So thank you very much.
Annika Wettel has just asked Laurie for a tour of the centre. So if you'd like to come over, book a ticket, whatever, but you're going to be here for at least 3 days doing a tour of the centre.
There's actually a me tour of the centre that's on our Patreon. So we've actually done that, and I can't remember how long that is, but I seem to remember it's about half an hour. So apologies for that, but if you are on Patreon, I hope you didn't get too bored, and if you did, then at least we provided you with the perfect
Tell him that
cure
enough's
for insomnia.
enough. Tell him, stop, Laurie, stop. FXP 1688 has featured.
Oh, hello,
He's surfaced again with his €100 donation. That's why I keep saying, Laurie, we should do these YouTubes every night. We'd make enough to run the centre then. That'd be quite cool. So go talking that, and while we were talking about that, we were talking about rescues, and somebody came up with, I know something Laurie wants to talk about, and one is garden netting, which this time of year features very heavily, not only netting actually, but fencing as well. So chicken fence, the sort of fence you put around tennis courts, which is the chain link fence. Animals get stuck in it all the time. If you're going to use garden netting, being fruit netting or whatever, tennis netting, trampoline netting, try and stop it at least 2 feet above the ground, because that way the smaller animals can get through. They're less likely to get stuck in it. With chain link fence like that, that's really very nasty. Animals get stuck in that. Foxes sometimes, fox cubs sometimes can release from that, but the trouble with hedgehogs, when hedgehogs get stuck in it, because their spines go backwards, they get their head through and they can't pull back through because obviously the spines are in the way. So that's always a bit of a nightmare. We do go out to hundreds and hundreds of those calls this time of year, be it fox cubs, badger cubs, even deer in some of the netting as well. So if you've got netting in your garden, as I say, try to keep it 2 foot above the ground, or if you can't or whatever, just check the garden once a day, or ideally twice a day. Just walk around the garden, make sure there's nothing stuck in it, because we can get there, but sometimes you have to be quite quick. as obviously animals can throttle themselves, especially when they get stuck in a loose piece of netting, like a tennis net or a football net. They just go round and round and round. It then tangles and gets tighter and tighter and tighter until the restriction room is so great. Look at my neck, guys. It's so rigged. I've got a wattle, Laurie. I was moaning about this before we started. I don't like being so... Perhaps I should have Botox of the neck, Laurie. Can I have Botox of the neck?
You sound like you're strangling yourself.
I probably am. That's probably a good thing too, to be honest. But no, things like that. So keep the netting off the ground. Check your fencing every day, or even more frequently if you can. You will probably save, in the course of a season, you will save at least one life, and that's really important because that's why we're here.
Yeah. Interesting enough, we've actually had a question from Nicole who's asked, is there a way to use garden netting safely, or should I just avoid it completely? I'm planning to make a balcony garden on the 8th floor, but I've had a lot of crows and pigeons around. So what are your thoughts on that, Simon?
Do a balcony garden, absolutely fine. Don't use netting. Put up something solid, either a piece of wood, solid wood, or some lattice which has no gap. Providing the gap is under about an inch, you're going to be all right. But any gap bigger than an inch, a little animal is going to get stuck in. Ducklings get stuck in it as well. So if it was me and I had the 8th floor of a balcony, I would put up a low, don't only need to be 2 foot high, sort of wall of wood, or it could be even of see-through plastic. It doesn't matter what it is, but give them something solid, then they're not going to get stuck in it, and it would be safe to do it that way. That's my advice for the day, Mr. Braley.
So, considering we've just been on a massive tangent, let's try and get a little back on track. So, someone was talking earlier about some of the other rescuers that we have. So, we are very, very lucky. We have a whole team of rescue volunteers who do sterling work, absolutely incredible work. Some of these will be going out 8, 9, 10 times a day, right the way across the county, doing anything from foxes to badgers to all of that lot. One of these little guys is a guy called Mike Berwick. And Mike has been with us for quite a while.
Hang on, Laurie. One of these little guys is a guy called Mike Berwick.
One of these guys.
He means the animal was little. Mike Berwick's normal size. So don't take offence, Mike, please.
So Mike has been with us for many, many years. He's been a rescuer longer than I've worked at the centre. He's done an awful lot of work with us, and seems to do an awful lot of stuff with foxes and things like that, but has even done some deer and fences and everything in the past. And we recently gave him quite a tricky task, which is this little fox cub. Now, this fox cub was found seemingly abandoned, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with it at all. So it was taken into the centre. I believe it came through a vet practice, and we checked it, everything was fine. And to be honest, the best thing to get to raise a fox is always a fox. And we gave Mike what could potentially be an impossible task of getting this fox back with Mum. And this is something that Mike does very, very well. You'll have seen, if you watch some of our YouTube videos, we actually have a full video dedicated to Mike's effort to reunite a cub with Mum. And the way that this is done is quite impressive, really. So we've got a little video here that Mike has taken. And this is the fox in, we use quite a high-sided box just so that the cub can't get out by itself. We'll have the lid just on, so you'll see in a minute, there you go, there's just a bit of a gap, and we'll put a stone in just to prevent the cub getting out if, obviously, Mum doesn't come back. We don't want it escaping. And Mike retreated from a safe distance and then just watched. And amazingly at that, and unfortunately the video is quite dark, so you might not be able to see this one, but in the distance there, you actually see Mum coming back to the box, greeting the cub, getting the cub out of the box and leading it away. Absolutely fantastic to get them reunited. For those of you who are worried, no, it is very, very unlikely to be another fox. Mike was obviously monitoring to make sure that everything was okay. For those asking who's beeping, that's Simon's phone.
It's my phone about a rescue, actually. I'm just trying to deal with that while we're talking to you, but I think we can sub that one out to one of our other guys. So, it never stops.
It never really does. It really, really never stopped. And Mike managed to watch that. Mum came out and led the cub away, back out. With foxes, obviously, they're highly territorial animals as well, as a lot of them are. And considering that was the exact location that the cub was originally found from, it is pretty much certain that that is the cub's mother. And we're watching to make sure that there's the appropriate behaviour between the two of them, just to make sure that everything was good. But it's always incredible to get an animal back to mum. That is where they should be. That will be given the absolute best chance at being a wild fox and growing up as a wild fox and all of the instincts that come with that. So a huge thank you to Mike and a couple of others who've done similar recently. We actually have Jacob and Phoebe. So Jacob, you guys will know, Phoebe's one of our volunteers, veterinary student, does a lot of work with our vet team. They have gone out as we speak to send another cub back to mum. So best of luck to those guys as well, and huge thank you to everyone who has
and
helped to get them back.
A huge thank you to Maggie P for £50. Maggie, thank you so much.
Thank you
very
very
much. Will go a long
much,
way to
Maggie.
help us rescue more animals, or to try and stop Laurie talking. More gaffer tape on the mouth, and he'll be silent for at least 2 minutes. Be really cool. So what else have we got? Have we got anything coming through from Facebook, Laurie, that we need to have a look at?
A couple of questions for you, really. So one I've seen a few times, which is why haven't we done many swan rescues recently? Now, I think there's a couple of reasons for that one, but I don't know if you want to get into any of them.
We've actually done a few. We're having to be very careful at the moment because of avian flu, so we do tend to not rescue swans unless we really, really have to. Like with any animal, we don't rescue unless we really have to, but other centres are taking in water birds. They only deal with water birds, so we tend to try to keep water birds away from us. We have a special quarantine caravan where we can put them in. Hopefully the avian flu restrictions are going to be lifted soon and we can go back to normal. But we have done a few. In fact, we went out to one the other day, but it was actually fine. When we got out there, it was absolutely fine and toddled off by itself. So don't, always give it a bit of time. Don't rush to pick something up. Always monitor it, and providing it's not in real mortal danger or obvious injuries with blood everywhere, just monitor for a little bit. It might just be having a snooze. This time of year also, it's getting warmer days. We had a call today about a woman who had a fox just lying in a garden. It wouldn't move, and she left it for a couple of hours, really panicked, was getting really twitchy about it. It was sunbathing. It was just having a little bit of relaxation. It could even have young and was just having a bit of 20 winks because it was knackered. But yeah, don't rush into things unless you really have to. Go on, Laurie.
So, a few more questions. The Silent Moth Trapper has asked, have you ever had a cuckoo come in? There's quite a story behind that one, really.
We have. I can do it much more succinctly than Laurie. So yes, we did. We had a cuckoo come in, which was actually being monitored by one of the groups. It had a great big transmitter on its back, but this transmitter was so heavy for that small bird that it had nearly just about had it. It was in a terrible state. It was very weak. It came in. It hadn't eaten very much. And we had to cut the transmitter off. It stayed with us for about 4 months, no, less than that, 3 months probably, by which time, because all the cuckoos had migrated back to the south, and we were worried that this one couldn't make it, he wasn't going to catch up in time. So we got a flight from BA, and believe it or not, they flew Lucy out first class to Italy, where there are quite a few cuckoos congregating before their onward flight, and it went off from there, and Lucy had to fly back tourist class. So she went out first class, or the cuckoo did. Lucy came back tourist class. She'll never forgive us for that one.
That's the whole story of that is actually featured in Wildlife SOS, which, if you don't know, that's the TV show that we had for 16 years, quite a few years ago. I think it ended in 2009, something like that.
Oh, no,
but the whole story is in that one, and it is still something that gets regularly talked about here at the centre and regularly brought up. But yes, we have had several cuckoos here. They're not the most common species that we see. We're not really in the area for it. You do see a few.
And there's a cuckoo. Look, there's a cuckoo. On and on and on and on and on.
You do see a few over towards Thursley Common, which is in Surrey. There's quite a famous one called Colin that a load of wildlife photographers sort of flock to every year. And there are several others around there, but we don't really see them. How many cuckoos do you think we've had over the years? A handful?
4 or 5. 4 or 5, not that many. We hear them, but they are around here. We hear them occasionally around here, but not so often now. But Indomelli, which is the one, Indomalli I think it was the one that we had here. It got quite famous, so it hit all the press and Lucy flew out.
Can you remember what it means?
Indomalli? No, I have no idea. No, and no spot for me, I have no idea.
But yeah, absolutely fantastic story for that one. Other comments. George Laurie, good last name, has asked, have you ever sustained a serious injury when rescuing a fox or deer? This is mostly for you, I presume.
I don't. What you consider serious, I don't. I've never had what I call a serious injury. I've had the odd gouging of antlers.
You've had an antler in your neck.
Yeah, but it wasn't serious. I didn't die, Laurie. I didn't go to hospital. I know I finished the rescue and I went into my daughter's. I couldn't see out of that eye. It was all sort of blood everywhere. And I just went in. I said, "Am I all right, or should I be worried?" And we looked at it and cleaned it up. It was just a little hole there, and it was fine. Stop making a fuss.
Can I just say, the amount of times that he's been kicked or antlered or anything like that over the years, the absolute worst thing to him was, on the deer side of things, is when his daughters bought him a new shirt, he went straight out on a rescue in it, a deer kicked it and tore it. And to him, the loss of that shirt was far worse than an antler to the temple and an antler to the neck. That's what you've said previously.
I lie a lot, Laurie. I lie a lot. I just made my daughters feel better that I was really worried about it. No, I mean, we get, I've had the bitten by badgers, been antlered. The buzzard with the foot through my thumb was probably one of the worst ones we've got. It didn't hurt. It wasn't serious. It was just a pain in the bottom because we had to sit there for about, probably, I don't know, Laurie, 10, 15 minutes.
I enjoyed that one immensely.
Yeah, Laurie, because Laurie said he was trying to get the talons out of my finger. It actually was pushing them in. He was pushing them in. I can't do it. I can't do it.
The pain.
It's no good making a noise. It's no good flapping. You just got to sit really still and wait till the buzzard wants to let go. The same as when you get bitten by a badger. It's no good fussing around because you're just going to bite harder. Just sit very still, very quietly. You're quite allowed to swear very, very a lot under your breath, but you can't do that loudly either. So you just go, "Oh, heavens above, this really hurts." Or words to that effect.
Unfortunately, it is, the whole injury side of things is a risk that everyone in the industry takes, really. There are a couple of our rescues who have been nipped in the past. Luckily, nothing particularly serious, but it is a risk. You are dealing with an animal that not only can do you harm, but is frightened, is often backed into a corner, and you are trying to catch them in the same way a predator would to a prey creature. So it is a risk, and unfortunately, occasionally, either you have to do it. I know Simon's done a couple of rescues where he physically had to put his hand in and get a glove and his fingers bitten to get the animal out. Occasionally you have to do it, but often it can just be, a lapse of concentration or just bad luck. And yes, it will happen, but every volunteer that we have, every staff member, I have fully up to date with all vaccinations and jabs, and we actually have several first aiders on site who can deal with all that one. Unfortunately, I've just made him a first aider, which is something I'm terrified.
I was a first aider before you were born, Braley.
Yeah, but now you're signed off on my instructor
in my
license,
diving
so.
days. In my diving days. I mean, it's like all these things, really. You just have to be very careful. I mean, it would make me pleased to see Luke get bitten a few times. That would actually make me smile. After
Stop abusing other senses.
After all the times, nasty things he said about his beautiful wife, who obviously does all the work. He just swans down here with the badger cubs, leaves it with us, and drives home again. I do expect to check for a huge amount of money, Luke, in the very near future. Easy done.
So,
what else we got, Laurie?
Alicia has just asked on YouTube, do you guys need a rabies vaccine? So, bit of an interesting one with that. Yes and no. So, luckily, rabies isn't really a problem in the UK. We don't get it in foxes or badgers or anything like that. It was eradicated, I believe, in the mid-1980s, 86, I think. The only creature that is potentially at risk of rabies are bats. So whilst no, we don't have a mandatory rabies vaccine for any of our team, anyone who deals with bats, one, has to wear quite a thick leather glove, and two, has to have a rabies vaccine as well. So yes and no on that one. Luckily we don't have the issues that you guys over in the States do with rabies, with things like foxes and other things, but certainly with bats we do have to make sure everyone has at least that precaution. There's actually just been a question, have you guys rescued bats? Yes, we rescue bats quite a lot. We're not particularly specialised with bats, so we do tend to do what we can and then send them off to another centre who can actually do the rehab and get them back, just because it's always better to try and maximise their chances. But yes, we do deal with bats all the time.
So that was another 5-minute answer from Laurie, which you could have actually answered in 30 seconds. But thank you guys for that, and thank you for giving me a bit of chance to have a bit of a kip. Always works for me. Laurie, the other thing you want to talk about is lactating females. I wish I had actually put something before that before I said that, but lactating females, obviously we're talking about badgers and foxes. If you do find an animal on the side of the road, either dead or in a bad state, and if you can, just have a look. If the nipples are swollen, if you think there's milk there and the animal's dead, obviously we will try to get out there. If it's a badger, we'll send the badger groups out. They can have a good look round. If it's a fox, obviously we will have a look round. We'll get the householders to have a look round as well, because it's getting to the end of it a little bit now. We're not, the worst of it's gone, but you still could get youngsters coming out there still feeding from mum. So we need to try and find the youngsters we can. We had an incident the other day where mum was found dead. The cub was walking around the garden, and obviously it was very distressing because mum was there dead and the cub didn't know what to do. So things like that are quite upsetting. We see that a lot of the time. Also this time of year, we went out to one the other day, which I'm not going to talk about too much, but we went out a deer. Sadly, there was so much damage. It was a roe deer. We had to shoot it. It was an RTA. The back end was totally smashed in, but she was carrying a fawn. The fawn we checked was not viable, but I mean, it's
we
pretty.
We did an emergency C-section at the time.
It's pretty hardcore. I mean, even to me, as Laurie will tell you, I can sort of deal with it. That then when you actually lift the baby out and put it down, it does crack you up a bit. It's not the nicest thing to do, but it's something we have to do. It's just very sad that somebody driving a tiny bit slower and knowing where there's likely to be deer, just a tiny bit slower, and that could have well been avoided. So drive carefully and watch out for lactating females is my motto of the day.
So, questions for you. Strider has asked, do you think outdoor cats should be banned due to how much of a detriment they are to the local wildlife?
No, that's to be honest, it's not a question. That's a question really. You can't ban cats. You can't ban dogs. It's not going to happen, guys. You could get your cats to wear bells. You can do certain things to make them. It's a bit more difficult for them to catch birds, but that's their instinct. It's our fault. It's really humans should be banned and let the cats and the dogs survive with nature. It'll all be fine then. But no, you can't ban them. It's silly to say that. I don't think it's any fair to have any animal trapped inside a house all the time either. So they're going to go out. We've got them. We can't undo this now. It's ridiculous. But just try to take a few precautions. You know, get the cat to wear a bell, which gives the bird a fighting chance. But this time of year, they are going to catch some baby birds, and that's why actually things like blue tits and smaller birds have lots and lots of babies because only a few are going to make it. It's rather like ducklings. A mother duck will have 12, 13 ducklings, but very seldom do more than 2 or 3 make it because they're either predated by cormorants or herons or pike or whatever. Nature is very good at doing the right things at the right time. There's only one alien species on this planet, one invasive species, as everybody knows from all my talks, and that's us, guys. That is us.
That is true, unfortunately. Next question. Charlotte has asked, do you guys ring any birds that come into your care?
I'm going to let you answer that one because you know it'll get me into an amazing amount of trouble, Laurie. So I'm going to sidestep that one very, very carefully.
So the answer to that is no. For certainly the vast majority, no. One, you need a special license to ring birds, and that is something that I think a few of our volunteers do carry, but that's not something that we do on a regular basis. And the second thing, unfortunately, is we get an awful lot of both rescues and patients brought in to birds that have been damaged by rings or wing tags or a whole lot of other things. And the amount of times we've seen birds caught on something where something's gone through the tag and pinned them to something. We had a buzzard in with wing tags that was so large and heavy that it physically could not take off. The amount of times we've seen that, we just don't want to risk putting an animal that's only just recovered back out to the wild with that sort of detriment. We want to give them the absolute best chance we possibly can, and to do that we put them out without any hindrance or any perceived hindrance, certainly, as much as possible. Obviously there have been the occasional time with really, really rare species that things have to be done, but certainly for the vast majority of times, no, we will not ring birds.
I think we've got a question. Somebody put a question in it. I think it's about Huntsman spiders. I can't actually find the question at the moment. Mm-hmm. Luckily we don't have them in the UK. If we did, I'd certainly be putting them in Laurie's office on a regular basis.
That was actually Melanie Fan, who's actually caught a Huntsman spider to release and unfortunately got bitten by it at the same time. So I hope you're okay with that, because I hear they can have quite a nasty bite on there. And certainly I know a few of our team would run a mile at spiders this big, because we don't get those in the UK, but luckily we don't have anything particularly harmful on either the spider or the snake front, because I know for a fact if we had anything snake-wise that could kill you in a heartbeat, he would not do it, because he's not.
I've been with more venomous snakes than you've ever had, Laurie. I was out in Australia and we were dealing with them every day. Well, we went out to a centre in Australia, in Perth, and you know he goes out every day and rescue snakes. It's quite funny really, because you'll go out to a house, you've been called out because there's a copperhead in somebody's lounge. They're still sitting there watching television saying, can you just move that snake? Whereas in the UK, everybody would have evacuated the house, we would have called the police, we would have done everything. But they just sit and say, can you just take it out? And I went out and we had to catch this copperhead. I'd only seen the guy catch it twice. So I always say, if you see something done and it's done well, you can actually do it yourself. So I did the exact same technique as his, and I grabbed this thing at the back of the neck. I grabbed it a bit low. It could still actually got around about 220 degrees. It couldn't get me, but it was that close. And then the cameraman said, well, say something, Simon. I had no saliva in my mouth at all. It was so dry, my tongue had stuck to the roof of my mouth. I went, God, mate. Something that could kill you is dangerous, and we're not used to
aren't the worst you've dealt with.
No, but if you work with these animals all your life, it's like when I first worked with crocodiles in Belize. To us it's terrifying because we've never seen them, but if you work with them all your life and you start dealing with the little ones and they get bigger and bigger, you begin to develop a technique, you begin to work out how they're going to react, what they're going to do, and that's why we are quite good in snakes. We know what things are going to do. When we're out on a rescue, we know roughly how the animal's going to behave 90% of the time, so you deal with it and it's just normal. But for things you've never dealt with, if you got told to jump on a 14-foot crocodile, which I did on my first morning out in Belize, I can't say I had to change my trousers, can I? But it was damn close, guys, damn close. Because the guy was on the front, I was on the back, he was on the front, and the guy who was running the centre was so enamoured with the camera work that he was doing, he didn't remember I was on the back of this crocodile and got off to talk to camera, and this crocodile proceeded to head off towards the lake with me still sitting on the back. And I was going, what the hell do I do now? It can be quite scary, and working with Laurie is probably not quite as scary as that.
Thank you. So Patty has just asked a question that is based on an interesting topic, and one that I'm actually not sure that you have seen, which is, how do you feel about glue traps now being banned in England? So
yes,
I learned about
thank
this
God
morning,
for that.
actually.
It was on Twitter this morning. I saw it before anyone. I saw it this morning. They're horrible things. It catches a lot of the wrong creatures anyway. It's just archaic. It's like snares should be banned. Anything that can endanger animals that shouldn't be in danger should be banned anyway. So snares should go. Fen traps should go. And glue traps should go.
They are illegal.
All these sort of things should go. All these sort of things should be stopped, because it's just not fair, and it doesn't always get things the way they're meaning to, and it can get the wrong species. If you're walking your dog and there's a fen trap out, then it puts his foot in it. It's very serious stuff, guys. It can have a leg amputated because of that. So yeah, all this stuff should be banned. Glue traps, thank God, are now a thing of the past. The only thing they've got a use for now, I'm going to buy them all quite cheaply because I could stick them in front of Laurie's mouth and stop him talking for weeks. Be beautiful. I'd love it. Actually, we might be able to take his beard off with it.
Note,
we could take your beard off with it, Laurie. If we get the glue trap, put them all around your beard, we could rip them off.
Barbara has asked, how did you two meet? Regret, I think, is the real reason for that.
I took great pity on him. I mean, I saw him, he was in the gutter, he was looking weak, underfed, malnourished, soaking wet.
I can't deny this.
Just crying his eyes out, and for some unknown reason, I felt sorry for him. Another reason for it really is his mother paid me 150 quid to take him off her hands.
Is that it?
So, yeah, well, it was better than nothing, Laurie, in those days. It was better than nothing.
Cheaply.
And no, Laurie came in as a volunteer, and he can tell you the story. But Laurie, you've got to get this story out in 30 seconds, and I'm timing you starting now.
Well, it's my partner, Alana, who's now our hospital manager. She was a volunteer. At the time she introduced me to the centre, I started volunteering on Fridays, and it went from there. Unfortunately, I met this man, and he said, would you like to come for an internship because you have experience with a camera? And it went from there. Started as a cameraman and then ended up now live in front of several thousand people, which is a little terrifying.
And that was spot on, 30 seconds. Well done, Mr. Braley. 30 seconds on the nose. What else stuff? We've got lots of stuff on our list here. We always have a list at the beginning of these things, so we have it to refer to if we sort of start to fall asleep or wondering what to talk about. We've gone through some of it. Is there any more? You wanted to talk about Patreon. We want people to become a patron. This is on the YouTube channel.
We
Guys,
did mention
really
this
helps
earlier,
us.
actually. So our Patreon channel has a whole load of perks on there if you guys want to head over. Anything from the very, very first series of Wildlife SOS which was actually all filmed and edited in-house. It's back when he had hair. And to be honest, it looked an awful lot more...
You're risking your life, Braley. You're
like
risking
this.
your life.
So this was Simon back in those days. So if you would like to see the early series, where Simon is narrating us in a very posh BBC voice,
yes,
then please head over to there. There's also my ridiculous 4-week-long tour of the centre, and a whole load of others, including behind the scenes of these live streams and how we set them up, and the mass of trip hazard cabling that is literally just in front of me, that gives Alice, who's in charge of our health and safety, a heart attack every time she sees it. So if you guys do want to head over to our Patreon on support that, we've got multiple tiers on there. Abby will stick a link to that in the chats on YouTube and on Facebook. Apologies, Abby, I've just dropped you in it there. And you can head over and support us on there if you would like.
That'd be cool. Ricky Gervais, we're going to mention Ricky Gervais. He very kindly designed a t-shirt for us recently. It's a picture of a fox, and we've got "For Fox's Sake." There it is. So that was done by Ricky. He signed the t-shirt himself. So "For Fox's Sake, be kind." We do have them for sale. They've gone very well, but please remember, guys, if you do order one, we buy them in to the orders. So they will take up to 28 days to arrive. So please bear with us.
Plus international shipping.
We haven't forgotten you. Yeah, 28 days, but please order one of those. It's all great for us, and obviously Ricky is a great supporter of ours. He's a patron along with his girlfriend Jane Fallon, and their cat Pickle, who's very picklish. The cat Pickle, very picklish. But yeah, so he's a great supporter, and we hope he's going to do more. I keep trying to get a meeting with him, but it's like trying to meet God. I tell you, like trying to meet God.
Alice has just had a heart attack in the chat on YouTube because when these launched, and they were launched by Ricky Gervais, we had hundreds, literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of orders, and we order each one individually. It gets sent off to a printing company, they produce them, they ship them to us, we then package those individually and ship them out. It's a heck of a lot of work for our admin team, so huge thank you to Alice and the guys on our admin side of things for sorting that out. They are responsible for getting probably close to 1,000 of them at this point out the door, and I apologise, Alice and Jackie and everyone else on the admin team, for the amount of work we've just given you. Please forgive me and don't kill me.
And I must apologise also to Alice that Laurie called her a guy, so Alice and the guys.
Generic.
You know, it's not. Guys are men. Guys are blokes.
Alice said she had 400 orders to pack.
But that's nothing. It's a 5-minute work for her. She's so quick. She's so efficient. She didn't even blink. Didn't lose a stride. She's brilliant. Our Alice. Our Alice ain't half good. Although she can get quite mouthy on Twitter. This afternoon she got very mouthy with a certain company who haven't done what they were supposed to do. And if you want to look at Alice Ceres Carroll on Twitter, you'll see she's getting quite annoyed with a said media company. We should say no more. You can look it up.
Moving on. Billy's asked, the real Ricky Gervais? Yes, the real Ricky Gervais, the one from The Office and numerous other things, the BAFTA winner. Yes, that Ricky Gervais. We are very, very lucky to have him as one of our patrons, along with Jane, the author, his partner. Huge thank you to both of them for the constant support that they give us as well. So, yes, the real Ricky Gervais. Ricky Gervais. Going back onto the animal side of things briefly before we then take a tangent onto wherever Simon.
You've got 5 minutes, Laurie. You've got 5 minutes.
We do. We try and get through as many of these as we possibly can. We've seen an awful lot of animals that aren't on the foxes and badgers and things that we've talked about recently. And something that we're seeing an awful lot more of at the moment is these guys. Now, this little tiny ugly little chick, this is a robin. So this is a European robin, different from the American robin that you guys have over in the States. But these guys are tiny when they first come in, and they've just hatched in their egg. You see it in one of these nests that's very kindly actually knitted and crocheted by one of our volunteers, so thank you to Myra for doing that one. But we get an awful lot of those in at this time of year. We will see literally thousands of baby birds. Ones this size will need feeding every half an hour, so we have volunteers who basically live in what we call our bird shed, or silent units 2, and helps you get them back. And amazingly, these guys can go from the egg to ready to fledge in 14 days, 2 weeks, which is insane. We're not mature after 18 years, let alone 2 weeks. So yeah, the world of birds moves very, very quickly. We have quite a fast turnaround on there, but we do see an awful lot of those. We've seen robins, we've seen missel thrushes, we've seen corvids, we've seen a whole lot of that. We're soon to get our first birds of prey as well, so we haven't had one yet, but we'll get tawny owls, barn owls, kestrels, buzzards, all of the youngsters, and we will then have the wonderful task of climbing back up trees to put them back in their nests. So that is to come. A few centres, I know Hart Wildlife and Vale Wildlife, 2 other rescue centres, have already got tawny owlets in, and it's pretty much days to weeks before we get our first here at Wildlife Aid as well. So that will not stop.
Okay, moving swiftly on, Laurie. You've got 4 minutes left, man.
Well, the other thing we're seeing a lot of young animals with, and this actually is going on to both Mara, who's been in the comments on YouTube, she's one of our volunteers, and Alice, who we've actually spoken about a lot and is in the chat, and that is rodents. So this little guy is a young rat, and he was unfortunately taken out of his nest, could not be reunited with his parents. But Alice and Myra, between them, basically do an awful lot of our rodent feeding. We do have other guys as well who do an awful lot of that, but our orphan feeding team is hard at work. Rodents can be very, very tricky to help and get back. They require constant feeding, including throughout the night. So with foxes and badgers, you tend to get a bit of a break from midnight until 6 a.m. depending on their age. Rodents, you don't. It's pretty much every 2 hours or every 3 hours depending on the species and the age. And we get all of these back to the wild thanks to the dedication and the efforts of our orphan feeding team. So we have a huge amount of orphan feeders, whether it be with rodents or birds or foxes or badgers or anything, and each one of them is absolutely vital. So we can only do it thanks to their dedication and their complete lack of sleep. So please, if you want to say thank you to Alice, she is in the chat and she will hate me pointing that out and asking you to do so. So if you do want to say thank you, please comment on YouTube and she will see it and try and kill me on morning tomorrow. We've got a few more rescue things to get to, and this is another one that we'll just hint at because we do have the full video of this coming. This is one recent one. You can talk about this, Simon, because it was one of the most difficult ones we've done recently, and it's this. Would you like to go further?
Well, I'm not going to talk too much because it's a great video to watch. All I'm going to say about this is it wasn't easy. It was very difficult, and we probably only got it thanks to Abby. I'm going to say no more than that.
100%.
Because you have to watch it to see what happened. It looks quite simple. It actually was incredibly difficult. But you've got to go to watch the video, guys. You've got to go to the YouTube channel or you'll never know the answer.
It's not out yet, but we hope to have it very soon. For those who don't know, that's actually a drain under a new build in a house. And that poor fox cub had not only fallen down there, but it proceeded to then crawl along the drain and was a good 4 or 5 feet underground and was refusing to move. Very, very tricky rescue, and huge well done, and thank you to Abby, who was pretty much the reason that we got it out. And you'll see that when we actually release the video, which should hopefully be before too long.
By the time it actually goes out, Abby, I'm afraid we're going to overdub my voice to your voice. We're going to overdub my face to your face, and it will be my bright idea and not yours. Laurie's very good at doing that. He doesn't like doing it, but I force him. I make him do it. But no, Abby was certainly the star in that rescue without any doubt. Okay, what else we got? We're nearly there, and I know we're both very tired because it just seems to be one long day now. The week just seems to blend into one long day, so it's awfully manic. Yeah, I can't even smile anymore. Try to smile and nothing happens. The muscles are gone that make my lips go up like that. But never mind. Oh, there's a little smile from Laurie, or it was wind, one or the other, I'm not sure which.
Just a quick comment from Lisa over on Facebook. Simon, can we Skype audio record some time for a radio show, just 30 minutes, about your life and animals? For stuff like that, yes, we do talks and radio interviews and all of that lot, but please drop us an email and we'll see what we can do on there. So drop us an email to mail, M-A-I-L, @wildlifeaid.org.uk. We'll pass that around and we'll see what we can do on there and see where we can go from that. But yes, we can do an awful lot of that as well.
If it's a 10-15 minute interview, that's fine, I'll do it. But if you want to get stuck on it for about 5 hours, ask Laurie to do it, because you'll never get him off, guys. He'll be on there non-stop. He'll even bring his own supper with him so he can keep on talking while he's eating.
There are no words. There are no words.
There are no words, and it's 8 o'clock.
I have no idea why
there are no words. You've got to sign off, Laurie. I started it, you can finish it.
Just going to go a couple of last things, then we'll have a very, very quick last series of questions, try and get through.
No, we won't, Laurie. We're going.
Before we go, Obviously, we've spoken quite recently about a potential book of wildlife photography.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Well.
I'm sorry. That's my fault. And I had it written down here in big writing. Praise Laurie. Be nice to
Don't
Laurie.
praise me.
Mention Laurie. He's had this book on the
Well,
drawing board
so-
for years. No, don't start now. Just shut up for a minute. It is brilliant. He's the most amazing bloody photographer, which really hacks me off. I'm sure in my dreams I taught him all he knows. But he's got this brilliant book. It's the second one he's done. He's going to do one especially for us now here. And he wants to ask you a few questions about it. But trust me, guys, it is stunning. Absolutely stunning. Laurie, the stage is yours.
So, this book we are actually, and I do need to get off my backside and actually do it, but we are planning to launch that on our open day, around our open day. So, if you guys don't know, it's actually an open weekend this year, so it's the first weekend in July. And we are going to be holding an open day for the first time in, I believe, 2 years. So if you guys are local to us and do want to say hi to everyone, visit the site and all that, 3 years.
I think so, isn't it? I think it's 3 years.
I think last one was 2019. I think.
Yeah, might be. I know we cancelled one.
We will have tickets for that available soon, and we also are planning to launch this book at that time as well. So I have a book here that isn't actually the book that we are going to do, but it's a very, very similar idea. But I would like to ask you guys, if you were interested in getting one of these, what would you like to see out of it? Would you like a book that's just full of images? Would you like images and a bit of story behind how it was done? Or would you like more of the technical side of things, getting into other types of it, other where things are, any of that lot? Please let me know. I do want to try and do the best that we possibly can give you guys. And if you do have any ideas, please either drop them in the comments on Facebook or YouTube, leave us a comment on our social media channels, or if you want to send it via email, our email is media@wildlifeaid.org.uk, so media@wildlifeaid.org.uk, and we will look at every single one of them. We really do value that input, and we'll try and take what people want, make it into a book, and hopefully get it out by June.
How many images are you reckoning on, Laurie, so far? Any roughly?
Currently, the design that's all been done at the moment is, I believe, 110.
Okay, so if it's 110 images and you want writing in the book, it will be 2,575 pages, because Laurie's writing is as bad as he's talking. But that's the sort of stuff he does. They are pretty good. You know, I could have done it myself, but I let him take the glory for it all. I'm very good at taking the soft focus shots. That's my speciality. But no, guys, give him some feedback. It will be out hopefully for Open Day, which is, Laurie says, is the first weekend in July. That's the 2nd and 3rd of July.
And now I've said it on the live, I have to stick to it.
I know. It will be from 10 until 5, I'm guessing, which is our normal hours. Do come down and see us. We'll be here for both days. And if you can't find me, just follow the can of Coke that I will have in my hand at the time. So, guys, thank you so much. Laurie's never going to sign off, so I'm going to do it for him now. Have you got? You can have for 5 seconds, Laurie, to say good night.
Just on that one, we just want to say a few thanks to everyone who has donated before we go, because there's a whole load of those, and unfortunately we haven't had time to get to an awful lot of those. But there's everything. Emily's donated £10. Myra, one of our volunteers, donated £20. Moon, £1.99. Watok or something like that, €10. Love from Finland. Huge thank you to every single one of you. You guys really are the reason that we can keep going. So thank you to everyone who has donated. We really, really do appreciate it. Apologies that we couldn't shout out in the way that we would have ideally wanted to, but you guys really do keep us afloat and keep us able to rescue animals and take things back to the wild. So huge, huge thank you. And of course, thank you to everyone who has tuned in, who's left comments, who has shared things, who does things on our social media, brings animals into the centre, courses out on rescues. You are the reason that we can keep going, regardless of what it is. So huge, huge thank you, and I will hand
You've
over
said
to
that
Simon
already!
now.
You've said that already, be quiet!
I will hand
We're
over
going
to
now.
Simon now.
We're going,
because he
guys.
wants to go and sleep.
No, I don't actually. Thank you, guys. Laurie takes all the brunt from me, but he is a stunning photographer. He is the senior rescuer now. I can't get away from it.
That's not true.
I'm going to wait till I get a really difficult one and then see if he can't do it. Then I'll laugh. But guys, thanks so much. I'm going to say goodnight. I'm much quicker than Laurie. Love you all. See you in about a month. Laurie, sign off. 2 secs. That's it. Bye.